Namaskar, ellarkum vanakkam. How are you all doing today? Hi to Boldo, tell me a hi. How are you all doing today? All good? Happy? All well? Lovely. Well, I am Ekta, and it gives me an immense pleasure to be welcoming each one of you to the G Square Presents Coimbatore Unlimited Collaborate, Co-Create and Celebrate, powered by The Hindu, and our TV partner being News 18. Well, today's topic of discussion is Coimbatore's Bypass Road, the emerging logistics hub. Well, Coimbatore is the second largest city in Tamil Nadu and one of the most industrialist cities of Tamil Nadu, known as the textile capital of South, Manchester of South. And all of you are very much aware of that. No doubts, Coimbatore city has been developing leaps and bounds, from textiles to hospitals to education to automobile industries, and now logistics is gaining momentum in Coimbatore, which brings us back to our topic of our panel discussions for today, which is Coimbatore Bypass Road, the emerging logistics hub. So I request Mr. Sivakumar, Regional Head Advertising, The Hindu, to officially welcome everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sivakumar.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to all. With the backdrop of the resounding success of a panel discussion held last month, the G Square and the Hindu present today the second panel discussion in the series Coimbatore Unlimited, Collaborate, Co-Create and Celebrate. The discussion today is on the topic Coimbatore Bypass, the emerging logistics hub. Of course, the booming domestic market and export demand have led to development of air, rail, sea and road cargo in the country, and Coimbatore is part of this growth story. In the last couple of years, stakeholders of the logistics sector have explored and invested on Kochi Frontier Road and Coimbatore Bypass. It is our endeavor to always keep you updated on all developments in the city and hence this initiative. We have with us today experts drawn from different segments of the logistics sector. Mr. Sukumar, CEO of TVS Supply Chain Solutions, Mr. Shanmugam, CMD of Sean's Cargo, and Mr. J. Satish, who is the son of the soil and who is familiar with infrastructure developments here. The moderator for the evening is Mr. Elango, who is an exporter and who heads the Kodisha Industrial Park here. It is our honor and pleasure to have you with us in this evening. We also have participants from various sectors, some from other cities too. A warm welcome to each one of you. Thank you very much. I request all the dignitaries to occupy the stage, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sivakumar. Well, to know more about the said topic and our panelists for today, I request our moderator, Mr. K. Elango, Managing Director, RSM Autocast in Kodisha Industrial Park, to kindly come up on the stage. A warm welcome to you, sir, and a round of applause for our moderator for today.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be the moderator for today's program on logistics. At the outset, I thank G Square and The Hindu for giving me this opportunity on moderating the session on a very, very vital sector to the Indian growth story, which is logistics. Before I have my panelists waiting there, so I first welcome them before I can give my opening remarks. Let me first introduce the panelists and request them to join me on the dais. We have with us one of the doyens of the supply chain industry, which is India's biggest success story, the fastest success story, which is TVS Supply Chain Solutions, TVS Logistics and TVS Supply Chain Solutions, which has grown from nothing to where it is today on the top in the last 1 decade. And we have with us Mr. K. Sukumar, who is currently the CEO of India business of TVS Supply Chain Solutions. Mr. Sukumar. He is a seasoned industry professional with over 29 years of experience across many industrial sectors and functions. Sukumar has worked extensively in strategy, business management, marketing and sales functions in the field of logistics, telecom, automobile and steel sectors. He has a BTech from IIT Madras and postgraduate diploma in management from IIM Ahmedabad. Sukumar also has completed a leadership program with Ross School of Management, University of Michigan. Welcome, Mr. Sukumar. We look forward to your experience and expertise in the field of logistics. We have another seasoned entrepreneur who has a career of over 40 years in logistics, 10 years in working with large organizations and 30 years as an entrepreneur. A self-made man, Mr. P. Shanmugam from Tirupur. Mr. Shanmugam started his career in 1982 with Gordon Woodruff Logistics in Chennai. Then he moved on to various other organizations before he started his own venture in 1992 in the name of Shans Cargo Private Limited. Today, Shans Cargo has branches in Tuticorin, Coimbatore, Chennai, Cochin, Tada, Bangalore, Mumbai, Karur, Salem and Gujarat. That's Hazira Port. He has many success stories and he's always been a very proactive person as far as logistics is concerned. The first container train movement between Tuticorin and Tirupur was organized for Tirupur Exporter in coordination with Concor by Mr. Shanmugam. He was a ground handling agent for Concor Tirupur for 8 consecutive years. Shans Cargo Private Limited having 60 numbers of its own trailers for movement of XM containers from South India. He regularly conducts an awareness program with exporters and CHAs. He encourages people to join the logistics business or join the logistics team by conducting internship programs, conducting logistics classes for students studying MBA. He does it free of cost. Welcome, Mr. Shanmugam. We look forward to hearing about from your experience. And as Mr. Sukumar mentioned, we have our son on the soil, Mr. Satish. Satish, please join us on the dais. Satish is a businessman, a very, very active social worker involved in various activities. He's also a member of various trade bodies in Coimbatore. He's a member of the Governing Council, invitee to the Governing Council of the Indian Chamber of Commerce. He's Joint Secretary of RAC. He is the Executive Committee member of RANA. He served as the Executive Committee member of Kodisha and Coimbatore Cosmopolitan Club. He is also a member of the Consumer Grievances Forum of Coimbatore Electricity Distribution Circle South, nominated by TNERC. Recently, as a part of the team, he had represented the constraints faced in infrastructure, industry and environment in our region with various authorities at the State Secretariat in Chennai. The strength of Mr. Satish is his knowledge of on the ground about everything. He knows everything about what Coimbatore is, where are the growth stories, what is happening in every nook and corner, and he'll share his insight into how development is going to take place in the bypass road and in the sphere of logistics. With these words, I welcome our panelists and look forward to a very fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would request Mr. Palaniappan, the Chief of Bureau, The Hindu, to kindly come up on the stage to felicitate Mr. K. Sukumar, our panelist. Now I may request Ms. Saundarya Preeta, the Deputy Chief of Bureau, The Hindu, to felicitate Mr. P. Shanmugam. Mr. Jagdish, Head of Circulation, The Hindu, to kindly come up on the stage to felicitate Mr. J. Satish. Now I may request Mr. Shafiq Rahman, the Head Events and Activation, The Hindu, to kindly come up and felicitate our moderator for today, Mr. K. Ilango. Let's begin the panel discussion. So I request our moderator to kindly take over from here, our topic being Coimbatore Bypass Road, the emerging logistics hub. Over to you, sir.
It was almost a year ago that my very close friend and cousin, Mr. Mahesh Babu, who is here among the audience, told me there's a big story happening in Coimbatore. Are you aware of it? As any entrepreneur in Coimbatore who is always looking out for opportunities, all of us in Coimbatore always do that. We started discussing about it, and he kept feeding me about the opportunities in logistics and warehousing on the Cochin Frontier Road. He was looking out for land, and he told me, why don't you go pick up some land there? And I did get a lot of people coming to me and offering land and that, saying that this is going to be a future hub. I was not very sure about what was happening. It was early days. This was just a year ago. And I said, okay, it sounds interesting. Prices were going up. Land which used to be about 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs an acre was selling at 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs an acre. They were all skyrocketing. So obviously there's something happening there. And whether it was just mere speculation or some good story happening was something I was not aware of. But subsequently, over the last couple of months, ever since the Delta wave started ebbing, this was around November, December, as Managing Director of the Kodisha Industrial Park, which we have set up on either east and western, the north and southern part of the city, I started getting inquiries about availability of space. I realized that there was a sudden uptick in the requirement of space for setting up industries, and there's a lot of interest coming into Coimbatore. When we were studying about the causes, one of the biggest reasons which we realized, and which of course has been in the news for the last couple of years, is companies moving away from China and inquiries coming from all around the world into India for worldwide supplies. Tirupur is one place which has already encashed it, and today the growth story in Tirupur is fantastic over the last couple of years. So since Tirupur and cotton textiles were doing well, cotton industry, textile spinning industry is also doing well. We know that there's a lot of growth story happening there as well. As a manufacturer of auto components, we received a lot of inquiry from many all around the world. Of course, we still have a lot of problems in pricing, so we couldn't capitalize much on it. But nevertheless, there's a lot of interest happening. Over the last couple of weeks, I've received inquiries for warehousing facilities. Somebody from Bombay called up and said they want a warehouse of 15 to 20,000 square feet. There was another, that's okay, I'll just do the introduction. So there was another company, Guidance Bureau of Government of Tamil Nadu under the Ministry of Industry. They called up and wanted 35,000 square feet space for a plug and play factory. So such interests and inquiries keep coming in. And that's when it struck to me, or that's when Preeta called me and told me that we are having a program on logistics. I said, how apt, this is the perfect time that you can have a program like this. The interest which is there on Coimbatore and the focus on Coimbatore itself is tremendous. Bell wants to set up a unit here. Tatas are looking up setting a common facility center, multimodal transport logistics hub. Everybody is interested in this belt. And Coimbatore has a natural inclination and the facility to do that. After all, Coimbatore is the center of the growth story of this entire region. When we talk about the region, it's Coimbatore, Tirupur, Erode, Karur, and everything around it. And we are all interlinked one way or the other. We thrive on each other's growth. So Coimbatore story is just beginning. Whatever we seen probably is just the foundation, and we can see a superstructure being built on it. So where is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? What is required for it to happen is a thing which all of us in Coimbatore and around should look at. And what are the opportunities available for each and every one of us as entrepreneurs, as anybody? Suppose you want to move into Coimbatore, what are the opportunities available in manufacturing, in logistics, in any other service industry? So there is a big growth story happening here, and I'm glad that G Square and Hindu have identified this as a very apt topic, and to have this session here. I don't want to get into too much of details on the logistics sector, which I'll add my bit as and when I get opportunities. But we have three experts here on different fields. Sukumar with his knowledge on national and the local supply chain logistics which is required in the country, the growth story happening across the country. He'll give his perspective on what's happening around and what can happen here. And Mr. Shanmugam will talk about, he will give his perspective as a logistics person in the import-export field. His 30 years of experience in dealing with this is going to add a lot of value to this. And what can be done on the ground and what's the current situation on the ground, Satish is here to tell us. With these words, I'd like to first call upon Mr. Sukumar to just tell us quickly and briefly on what is happening in supply chain and logistics across the country, and how is that going to be, how is Coimbatore going to be impacted or affected by it, about what's happening across the country.
Good evening, and firstly thanks to the organizers, the Hindu and G Square, for having us, and I'm very glad to be part of this panel. Thank you very much. So let me spend a couple of minutes talking about, when the invitation came to us, to me, to be part of this, what was exciting about Coimbatore and why logistics in Coimbatore, and then let me get on to what the trends are. So we were coincidentally doing some auto component movement for one of our big OEs manufacturers, and we were looking at how the trucking movement out of Coimbatore takes place and how do we cut short our time. So that was very topical when we were when this invitation came. And the second part was we were actually looking at automation systems in our warehouses, and it so happened that two of our suppliers are based here in Coimbatore, and that's the second reason why I thought this is a very important place. And the third one is there's a lot of back-end technology which we are using for our warehouse management systems, and a lot of our people are based here who are the developers. So everything came together for us when the invitation came. And so therefore, to me, it was very topical to just share a couple of very quick trends of what's going on, and I don't want to take too long about this. Clearly, what is the reason for logistics is how to get a product to market, and that obviously means you ask any customer, he will say in the most efficient manner and the lowest cost. To do this, what are some of the trends, if you see, that's happening nowadays? There is a whole thing about India, as you know, is a very large consumption economy as well, apart from an export economy. So there's a very large direct-to-consumer business that's happening. So there's a lot of, from a globalization, there's a lot of regionalization that is taking place. And strategically, this area helps to bridge a very big gap in South India from, Bangalore going down south. So this is a very important location. The second thing that is going on is in terms of, the warehouses and supply chain, where the warehouses have become much bigger. They have become multi-user facilities. They have, green warehousing is becoming a very important thing. ESG, environment, social governance is becoming very important. So you need upgraded sprinkler systems and all that. Gone are the days when you could have a very small, what we would call a go down. You will have to now move into value-added warehousing, which is another big thing, along with automation, along with technology to back this up, and value-added services. There is also the other thing in terms of where when you want to transport goods from across the country, you are trying to see how you want to do quick turnarounds, how you are able to consolidate, getting into tractor trailers, which is very prevalent for those who travel overseas. You will see it in the US and Europe. Tractor trailers are coming into India. You will find that there is road railers, which is through multimodal concept. So all of these require infrastructure, and when you have something around a large, where the road infrastructure is being created to support that, it's got all the ingredients to make a great logistics story, in my opinion. Yeah.
Thank you. You're just talking about green infrastructure, green warehouses and automation. Can you just give a little bit of insight into what is required? Because if you as a supply chain provider would like to hire a godown or something, what is it that you're talking about?
Okay, so in the entire area of logistics, when you're talking of green, so the era of the kind of the roof that you had earlier, many years ago, you had asbestos, with now moved into concrete, moved into different kind of systems as far as the roofing is concerned. Inside the warehouse, you went into recyclable materials. You went into with occupational. There's a certification called OSHA's occupational safety hazard. So there is a global move towards that occupation, towards that certification. So you will have things like fire hazards, fire alarm systems, sprinkler systems. The way the processes that you follow in a warehouse, reusable packaging. You have a lot of packaging which is now, you move away from wooden pallets into plastic pallets, where the life is like 5 years instead of a wooden pallet which may be 1 year. These are very many of those things that are actually taking place as far as the warehousing is concerned. Yeah.
But don't you think that in India, supply chain and logistics is still very nascent? We still don't use even pallets across supply chain. We still manually load it onto trucks and manually unload it. We still don't handle the cargo very carefully. They're just thrown by people. I mean, aren't we still in very early stages on these aspects?
That's a great point, but I must say I don't agree with you there. I think there has been, I'm not saying that the logistics has completely moved forward, but I do believe that there is a big wave in that direction, because the customer is getting very demanding. Now he needs packaging which is retail shelf ready. You cannot afford to have even a single dent in a box, in a laptop box. He will not accept it, because the box goes straight from the warehouse into a retail store shelf. You have to make sure that everything is there. So nowadays you have a lot of automation systems, you have dock levelers, you have scissor lifts, you have telescopic conveyors, you have the works. Yeah. So I think a lot of care is being taken these days.
So we are in the right direction.
Yes.
Yeah, we have Mr. Shanmugam. Can you just tell us, in your experience, where do we stand as far as our international trade is concerned, logistics with respect to international trade? And what is required to take it to the next level?
மாலை வணக்கங்கள். டாக்டர் அப்துல் கலாம் சொல்லியிருக்காருங்க, அந்த வார்த்தைகள் ரொம்ப பிடிக்கும். Do it on an established system and with a different thinking. இந்த வார்த்தைகள் பேஸ் பண்ணி இந்த லாஜிஸ்டிக் லான்ச்சிங் பண்ணுற இடம் 2001 ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்ணாங்க, கண்டெய்னர் கார்பரேஷன் ஆஃப் இந்தியா. கேக்குதுங்களா? 2001 ஒன் மிஸ்டர் சுவாமிநாதன் அண்ட் ராஜாராம், இந்த இருவர் ஆர்கனைசேஷன், அப்போ எல்என்டி வேர்டே கிடையாதுங்க. அப்போ அவங்களுடைய விஷன் கரெக்டானதுன்றது இப்போ 20 வருஷம் கழிச்சு இந்த மேடையில் நம்ம எல்லாம் பேசுகிறோம். இந்த லொக்கேஷன் அருமையான லொக்கேஷன்றது. இந்த கோயம்புத்தூர் பெல்ட், அதை சார்ந்த ஊர் திருப்பூர், கோயம்புத்தூர், பொள்ளாச்சி, கரூர் இஸ் அ ஃபாரின் எக்ஸ்சேஞ்ச் ரெவன்யூ கிரியேட் பண்ணுற ஒரு பெல்ட் அண்ட் இன் இன்டர்நேஷ்னலி நோட்டட் சிட்டி. அப்படி இருக்கச்சே இந்த வளர்ச்சி ரொம்ப அபூர்வமாக இருக்கும். If you give a different angle to set up this warehousing system.
இப்போ ஃபியூச்சர் ஆஃப் வேர்ஹவுசிங், இந்த இம்போர்ட் எக்ஸ்போர்ட்டுக்கு அது என்ன தேவை, அது எங்கே போகிறோம் நம்ம, அதுக்கு இப்போ நம்ம இங்கே ஐசிடிஸ் இருந்தது, கான்கார், சிடபிள்யூசி வேர்ஹவுஸ் மாதிரி இருந்தது. இது இப்போ இங்கிருந்து நம்ம சரக்கு ஏதாவது அனுப்பணும்னா வி சென்ட் டு கொச்சின் ஆர் டு டூட்டிகோரன், மோஸ்ட்லி சம்டைம்ஸ் டு சென்னை. ஸோ இப்படி இருக்கும்போது இப்போ இந்த இடத்துல நம்ம மேனுஃபேக்சரர்ஸ்க்கு இருக்கட்டும், ஏன்னா நிறையா தொழில்கள் வரும்போது அவங்களுக்கு மூலப்பொருள்கள் வருது, நிறையா இம்போர்ட் பண்ணுறோம். முந்தி மாதிரி இல்லை, டொமெஸ்டிக் இல்லை, இப்போ நிறைய இம்போர்ட் பண்ணி நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ணுறோம். ஸோ அது எல்லாமே ஸ்டோர் பண்ணி அதை ட்ராப் பண்ணுறதுக்கு அதுக்கெல்லாம் என்ன மாதிரி ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ் ஃபியூச்சரிஸ்டிக்காக வேணும்?
சார், என்னுடைய விஷன் வந்து இது ஒரு ஃப்ரீ ட்ரேட் வேர்ஹவுசிங் ஜோனாக கொண்டு வரணும்னு ஆசைங்க. அதாவது ஃப்ரீ ட்ரேட் வேர்ஹவுசிங் ஜோனை பற்றி தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னா தயவுசெய்து எல்லாரும் ஒரு வெப்சைட்டில் போய் பாருங்கள். இது 2005 2006 ஸ்பெஷல் எக்கனாமிக் ஜோன் அந்த செக்ஷனில் வந்து தே brought this ஃப்ரீ ட்ரேட் வேர்ஹவுசிங் ஜோன். அது ஒன்றுமே இல்லைங்க, ஒரு கடலோர பகுதியில் போட்டு கோயம்புத்தூருக்கே கொண்டு வந்துடலாம் கப்பலை தவிர. எல்லாமே அந்த ஃபெசிலிட்டி இன்ஹவுஸ் கோர் ஆக்டிவிட்டீஸ் ஆல் ஏர் சி ரோடு மல்டி டிரான்ஸ்போர்ட் எவ்ரிதிங் வில் பி அட் ஒன் கோர் ஆக்டிவிட்டீஸ் பண்ணிட்டா இம்போர்ட்டர்ஸ் எல்லாம் வந்து தே டோன்ட் வாண்ட் கோ ஃபார் ஈச் அண்ட் எவ்ரிதிங் டு பை வென் தி நீட்ஸ். Suppliers of raw material, they can dump in that warehouse, they can take whatever quantity they want to produce, they can use this free trade warehousing zone. அது வந்து கொடிசியா மூலிமா வர வைக்கணுன்றது தான் என்னோட ஆசை. ஏன்னா ஃப்ரீ ட்ரேட் வேர்ஹவுசிங் வந்து பற்றியில் வந்துருச்சுன்னா யாரும் போட்டு போக மாட்டோம், எல்லாமே இங்கே நடக்கும். எல்லா கோர் ஆக்டிவிட்டீஸும் இங்கே நடக்கும். திஸ் ஃபார் கைண்ட் இன்ஃபர்மேஷன்.
தேங்க்யூ சார். ஃப்ரீ ட்ரேட் வேர்ஹவுசிங் ஜோனை பற்றி அப்புறம் பேசுவோம் மறுபடியும். இப்போ டேக்கிங் கோயம்புத்தூர், சதீஷ், டுடே கோயம்புத்தூர் இஸ் grown all across, east, west, north, south, except on the western side you have the hills. Otherwise, all other direction Coimbatore is growing. இப்போ what is it that makes Coimbatore a good logistics hub? Secondly, which area in Coimbatore has the highest potential, and why do you say that?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. And as Ilango had rightly said, you won't be able to go on the western direction of the city because it's all surrounded by the hills, and to an extent you can't go beyond the north also because 30-40 kilometers you touch the hills again, and you can't go on the southern side of the city very much because angiyum vandu malapagudi plus vegetation and agriculture romba prominent ah irukku. The only place where you can go is on the eastern part of the city. Eastern part of the city la most of it are dry lands, and as you go further east, Sulur, Palladam, ellame vandu it's dry lands which is very very suitable for warehousing, industry, logistics ellame. இதை ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்ணி தான் கவர்மெண்ட் ஆஃப் இந்தியா வந்து கரூர் கோயம்புத்தூர் எக்ஸ்பிரஸ்வே கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ட் பண்ணுறாங்க. அவங்க என்ன பண்ணுறாங்கன்னா கரூர்லேருந்து கோயம்புத்தூர் வரைக்கும் எக்ஸ்பிரஸ்வே பண்ணி நம்ம காரணம்பேட்டை வரைக்கும் வந்து காரணம்பேட்டையிலேருந்து ஒரு ஸ்ட்ரெச் நரசிம்மநாயக்கம்பாளையம் வரைக்கும் போகுதுங்க, இன்னொரு ஸ்ட்ரெச் வந்து மதுக்கரை வரைக்கும் போகுது. திஸ் இஸ் தி கரண்ட் சிச்சுவேஷன். பட் ஃபார் திஸ் யூ ஹேவ் L&T bypass road from நீலம்பூர் டு மதுக்கரை. L&T bypass road இருக்கிற அட்வான்டேஜ் என்னன்னா already the land acquisition is done. You don't need to go for any further land acquisition. ஏற்கனவே 60 மீட்டர்ஸ்க்கு அந்த 25 கிலோமீட்டர் ஸ்ட்ரெச்க்கு கம்ப்ளீட்டாக லேண்ட் அக்விசிஷன் போட்டு எடுத்து வச்சிருக்காங்க. Yes, there is a dispute between L&T and the government of India, but they will be sorting it out, and I'm sure that that's going to be the hotbed for all, not only logistics, townships எல்லாமே வர்றக்கு அதுதான் வந்து it's going to be the future. This is number one. Number two, with regard to logistic parks, multi-modal logistic parks in சொல்லி government of India have selected 35 locations inside the country, 2 locations inside the state. ஒன்னு வந்து சென்னை, இன்னொன்னு வந்து கோயம்புத்தூர். TITCO வந்து they are playing a very active role in this, and they want to identify the sites, and they want to create multi-modal logistic parks. Multi-modal logistic parkங்கிறது வந்து it's just not only by road, movement of material by air, movement of material by rail, movement of material by road, எல்லாத்தையும் கிளப் பண்ணி ஒரு 150 acres to 170 acres ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்ணி அந்த இடத்துல they want to give you better facilities like storage, cold storage yards, storage facilities, அப்புறம் loading, unloading, trucking and big storage facilities using the latest technologies. இன்னைக்கு வந்துங்க what you need to see is it's just not about bringing a material from point A to point B. How quickly you're able to turn it around and send the wagon in with respect to the rail or the aircraft with respect to the air and the truck is what is very important and paramount. And I think this sector, the L&T bypass sector from Nilambur to Madukkarai is the hotbed, and I think we will see much more activity than what is happening today in this place. Thank you.
Thank you, Satish, for that. But today L&T bypass has only 2 lanes. You said that it will come. The question is when, because that is kind of becoming a bottleneck for our entire place. The second thing is that it's not just the L&T bypass, I guess. When we talk about L&T bypass, it's not literally that road either side. It's just that region, which includes the Cochin Frontier Road, which is an alternate road from Trichy Road to both Pollachi Road and to Palghat Road. So that road and the region there, which is again a totally dry belt, it's got huge potential you are talking about. So can you just be a little more specific about which are the areas related to that which can be potential logistics hubs?
Yeah. National Highway Authority of India, NHAI, have joined hands with Tatas and CBRE to prepare a DPR with regard to the identification of the pockets on how we go about creating MMLP. That's one part of it which the Government of India is doing. But for it, the other private players like TVS and a lot of people have come forward, Amazon, Flipkart, all those people have come forward and they have identified locations. Irugur is one hotspot because you can connect rail and road very easily, and it's the proximity to the airport. Everybody know, I think most of you will know that, the state government has allotted 1,132 crores for airport land expansion. Once they take over the land and hand it over to Airport Authority of India, they would be developing a brand new state-of-the-art international airport in Coimbatore, and the new airport, terminal building, approach road, everything is going to be on the southern side of the runway, which is again close, which is got close proximity with Irugur. And Irugur is a very, very important hub for goods transport for railways. And a place very close to it would make more sense because the highway is also going to come somewhere close by. And Irugur is one hotspot. The second thing would be Chettipalayam, because Chettipalayam railway station also they're planning to develop it in a big way. And the third thing would be on the Madukkarai road. So basically speaking, Irugur, Pattanam and Chettipalayam, all those places are going to be budding with activity.
Thanks for that. I think you hit the nail on the head. Sir, நேத்து பேசிட்டு இருக்கும்போது நீங்க சொன்னீங்க இந்த இருகூர் ஏர்போர்ட் இருகூர் கனெக்ஷன் which has been planned long ago. அதை பத்தி கொஞ்சம் சொல்றீங்களா? You just mentioned it.
In my observation, there is a road at backside of the airport, which around 50 to 60 feet broad. That road should be converted into the connection to the main national highways, which will the international airport consignment can be moved on the particular road and reaches this Irugur point after this hub set up as a multimodal transport. And also the rail is there. We have airport with us, and surface transport also is very easy for us. So 3 mode of transport will develop this particular multimodal transport system. This is my vision.
Thank you. I think that's the point. Ms. Sukumar, you spoke about the requirement of businessmen and entrepreneurs industry who look at low cost and speed of transportation of movement of goods. For a hub to develop, and today in today's context with your global experience, we would like to know what are the kind of opportunities that are available for entrepreneurs in Coimbatore, apart from warehousing. One is warehousing, I guess, and what kind? And secondly, what are the logistics? Here Mr. Shanmugam himself has got a fleet of 60 trucks which transports containers. What are the changes which are happening, and what do you look at it futuristically as a proper investment for growth?
So, first, as far as we spoke about the entire thing of warehousing, where you actually can develop either a logistics park yourself, or if you have land, you can work with one of the many developers. CBRE was one of the names that you've taken, but there are many others. There's people who are coming in from Singapore with investments. I won't take names here, but there are people who actually will help to. If you have the land and you are willing to make the investment, they can actually create the warehouse for you, and they can market that warehouse for you, so that you get customers and it becomes a regular source of regular income for you. That's one possibility. The second possibility is as far as a hub infrastructure is concerned, where you do consolidation or you do multimodal movement. That requires, you can get hubs as from 75,000 square feet onwards, going to much larger. Today, nowadays, you have hubs in some parts of India where as large as 400 and 500,000 square feet, where you have 120 shutters or docks in a hub where you can cross-dock. And there are service providers like us who would be looking at entrepreneurs who create a hub and manage it and run it, because they know the local conditions better than we can do. We can get the business, we can get alignment with transporters, but maybe we need people who can actually manage and operate the hubs. That's the second one. The third one is, of course, you can get into with direct to consumer and a lot of last mile services starting. If you are willing to invest in the transport business, there is sufficient and more opportunity for the last mile delivery to take place.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. We have with us today one more gentleman who volunteered who's come all the way from Chennai, Mr. Ramesh Venkat. Mr. Ramesh Venkat heads the Industry Partnership and CSR at Logistics Sector Skill Council at Chennai. Welcome, Mr. Ramesh, to this program. Mr. Ramesh is in the job of training, skill development and training for people for the logistics sector, starting from truck drivers to people in warehousing and others. I don't know much about it. I'd request Mr. Ramesh to just give a quick brief, and also on how your organization, the organization that you are associated with, can help in the logistics sector in Coimbatore.
Good evening to all of you, and many thanks for having me here. It was wonderful to hear all of you speak about logistics, and that's what brings me here. So we've been dealing about the disruption that is happening in multimodal logistics. So I'd like to dwell upon the point that all these projects, be it air, road, rail, sea, projects needs people, people need skills. So I come from the domain of, the skills ecosystem. I represent Logistics Sector Skill Council. It's a non-profit organization. We come under the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, promoted by CII, and we are affiliated with National Skill Development Corporation. So what we do is, we create content as an industry apex body. We are the one entity who certify with the Government of India for various job roles in logistics sector, multimodal. So we are governed by all the captains of the logistic sector. When I say sector, it encompasses 12 logistic subsectors like warehousing, transportation, air, sea, road, rail, ICD, CFS, e-commerce, cold chain, inland waterways, courier and express, liquid logistics. So we interact very closely with the captains of the industries, and I'm glad to denote that post-pandemic, the numbers of the demand for the skilled workforce is humongously proliferating. As we speak, we have a job demand on various job roles, right from heavy vehicle drivers, pickers, packers, data entry operators, transport coordinators, for export-import, of 8.67 lakh jobs in the portal, in the government portal alone, from fairly organized players. Unfortunately, it is the MSMEs who form the critical mass, or the predominant structure, and that's what brings me here. Coimbatore is pretty close to the region. Like Mr. Ilambo said, Coimbatore, Erode, Tirupur and Karur plus Pollachi forms a very critical region for multimodal. And just this morning I was going through the Cushman and Wakefield report. I was very glad, and it was heartening to see TVS supply chain to be the topper in Chennai as the largest service provider with highest demand, followed by Flyjack and Udan in Chennai. And I'm sure if it can be done in Chennai, it can be replicated here as well. So here, to talk about skills, we've created contents, curriculum for various job roles and levels, right from the entry level to a senior manager, where we skill train people for exam with MSMEs. And I'm very glad to denote here that we are the first in the country to launch a 3-year degree program called BBA Logistics, and we had the pleasure of launching the first degree program in Coimbatore at PSG and Krishnammal College. Followed, and thus far in the last 3 years, we've launched around 76 colleges, universities across India. We've also for the first time launched a 3-year degree program in e-commerce operations, which was never there in the country. And along with the Ministry of Civil Aviation, we've launched the first air cargo operations, a 3-year apprenticeship-based degree program in Amity, UP. So I think now we see a lot more colleges, and incidentally, post-pandemic, we've also been heavily funded by the World Bank to catch the students young in the school level from 6th standard to 11th standard and sensitize them through, digital media, through MOOC modules, through apps, to bring them into logistics and create a pathway for making them logistic professionals across the country. So we've started our EdTech program called the Logistic Learning Management System, where we skill train thousands of MSMEs, including DHL, FedEx, Blue Dart. We are a skilling and academic partner for e-commerce companies such as Flipkart, Delivery, Ecom Express. We've also opened a skill center inside Flipkart, where they mandated us to train 46,300 people in the next 2 years. So due to paucity of time, I think I'll end my speech here. I'm glad to take more questions. Thank you so much.
1 second before you go.
Sure.
You providing one of the most important aspects for the logistics sector, which is manpower, skilling manpower, which is absolutely essential for growth. You require skilled manpower.
Right.
What are your biggest challenges in this aspect? That's what I would like
so
to
if you
discuss.
look, slice the country into two, or create two crescents. On the left side of the peninsula is where the demands are, and the right side crescent has the supply. In fact, incidentally, we did a project for Amazon where they were asking us huge numbers, especially for both warehousing and last mile delivery. We also skill train a lot of electric vehicles, 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler drivers, and thousands of heavy vehicle drivers. We have simulator-driven projects. To answer your question, the demand of the skilled workforce has to come from the rural, not from the urban. Because urban, there are a lot of challenges where the aspirations of the youth. In fact, we have around 3,000 students whom we place for very decent salaries, but their aspirational levels to join logistics, despite training them, is they get pulled by IT. So I think every result has its lag. As a logistician myself, I worked the world over and in India. I've joined not by choice. So I think it will take some time. I think the journey has begun. We are trying to skill train, certify, sensitize, counsel them, and create more logisticians. And the critical mass has to come only from the other rural side, starting from Northeast, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, up to Tamil Nadu, and Coimbatore per se, being an industrial zone or a region, I think we can do it much bigger, better and faster.
Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. Thank you for sharing your insights and experience.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that was an important aspect which we could add value to this program on skilling and manpower for the logistics sector. Coimbatore being a very important manufacturing hub, of late there's been a lot of buzz on the defense corridor. it becoming a defense manufacturing center. Recently, Odisha signed an MOU with the Ministry of Defense to develop products worth 143 crores over the next few years. And the Defense Secretary, Mr. Ajay Kumar himself tweeted on that. So this is a big story. There was a story which was carried in Hindu by Preeta also about this aspect. What is the connect or what kind of support will the logistics hub do to the defense corridor program?
Yes, as you rightly said, the defense corridor project is going to create a lot of ripples in the market, and especially the defense PSUs who are very keen to come to Coimbatore and work with Odisha, as you rightly said, and they have identified few and many items to, to make it here and then to source it here, make it, and then use it in the defense sector, because, the foreign exchange is going to be saved. Logistics, improving the logistics is paramount, because that's the most dynamic sector, because nothing is, constant. Everything keeps evolving and everything keeps changing. To tell you in a perspective, Tamil Nadu is targeting $1 trillion economy by 2030. So today we are at about 23 lakh crores. Coimbatore is contributing 3.5 lakh crores per annum to the state GSDP, which is about 15% of the total GSDP of Tamil Nadu. Exports, Tamil Nadu is ranked number 3 in the country. About 2 lakh crores is being exported every year from Tamil Nadu, and the western Tamil Nadu, which is Salem, Erode, Tirupur, Coimbatore, Karur, Pollachi, and all those places, we contribute about 60,000 crores. So this is all set to grow. Number one, if the GDP year on year is about 8.5 to 10%. That is going to double, and that is going to grow exponentially. So today we are at 3.5 lakh crores, the GDP of Coimbatore. That's going to touch 10 lakh crores by 2030. So everything is going to grow exponentially. Defense is a major thing in that.
There's also news of Sipcot Industrial Park coming up in Coimbatore. Do you have anything to say on that?
Yes. Land bank is very, very crucial for any industrial activity or any developmental or infrastructural activity, and we've been discussing about it. Land bank should be created by the government and by the private players. So Sipcot is one form of investment done by the government to promote industries, and Annur is a place identified by the government for creating a Sipcot. When we recently met the officials at the Secretariat, they were saying that Coimbatore is fantastic, the growth story is great, but you need big investments, and big investments comes big industries. So big industries with pan-India reach will definitely help the MSME and the micro and tiny industries of Coimbatore. I'm sure that with defense corridor coming up in Coimbatore and Tamil Nadu government pushing the local manufacturers to think big, to do big things, and recently the Chief Minister was in Odisha asking for investments and signing more MOUs. I'm sure that Tamil Nadu is going to grow leaps and bounds, and we're going to be achieving the 1 trillion target by 2030.
Yeah, I do agree with you totally when you say that we need the land banks for setting up industries. Odisha Industrial Park, with which I am being associated, has set up the industrial park in 2 places, like I said earlier. And every week we are getting inquiries for at least 1 plot. Every week we're getting emails, and there's so much of interest in investing in Coimbatore. So with this scenario, I think, and it's from the experience that we have, it's extremely difficult for private players to set it up. It took us almost 10 years to set up a park of about 400 acres. It is a huge challenge, and the government with its abilities can do it much, much faster. So I do hope that we get Sipcot into Coimbatore so that the growth can be speeded up. Having said that, with Mr. Shanmugam, you've been a part of Tirupur's growth story from 1982. You've been there from 92, you are an entrepreneur. You've seen the exporters grow from very small entrepreneurs to where they are, thousands of crores turnover. You've seen them not only be exporters, but they become success stories in building brands within the country itself. Classic Polo or Ramraj or all these entrepreneurs have become big players in the domestic sector. Can you just tell me how logistics sector helped such entrepreneurs, and what is the story that we can take away from them by setting up or creating the facilities and the support you provided as a logistics provider to them, which can be replicated? அந்த மாதிரி எப்படி பண்ண முடியும்? நீங்க எப்படி அவங்களுக்கு என்ன உதவி பண்ணீங்க அவங்கள இந்த அளவுக்கு வர்றதுக்கு? இனி இங்கேயும் அந்த மாதிரி பண்ணணும்னா என்ன பண்ண வேண்டியிருக்கும்?
In the logistic hub, if you set up, as I say earlier, the free trade warehousing zone, சின்ன ஒரே ஒரு உதாரணம் நான் சொல்ல விரும்புகிறேங்க. ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் ஸ்டைல் ஆஃப் இன்னர்வேர், ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் ஸ்டைல் இன்னர்வேர் வந்து ஒரு ஒயிட் கலர் இன்னர்வேர், அது ஸ்டாண்டர்டாக ப்ரொடக்ஷன் பண்ணி they can push into this warehouse, and immediately when it is come into this warehouse, it declares a deemed exports. So they don't want to wait for the buyers to buy. Whenever they need the demand, the buyers can take immediately sold. Time consumption will be saved. Money, when it is inverted to this free trade warehousing, they can get the money immediately. The production will be very fast. They don't want to wait for the production time also. And my suggestion, when you give this kind of suggestion to the and educate the exporters there, all the branded people, they can set their own hub here to dispose the standard product, branded product in this market. That number one. And also the raw material what they want to procure in bulk, they can import and keep it as a hub here in this warehouse. Don't want to run for each and everything, import from each and everything, we have to go for a different port. This warehousing port will use this by the exporters here. That's my vision.
இப்போ நீங்க இந்த இவங்களுக்கு ஹெல்ப் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தீங்க. I mean, you've grown along with the other exporters of Tirupur. So what is it that the logistics sector play in their growth story? அவங்க growth story, அவங்க வளர்றதுக்கு நீங்க எப்படி உதவி பண்ண முடிஞ்சது?
நாங்க இல்லைன்னா 11th hours cargo ஆன்போர்ட் ஆகாதுங்க. அதான் லாஜிஸ்டிக். எல்லாமே திருப்பூரில் வந்து they give the cargo on 11th hours to load on the vessel. நாங்கள் லாஜிஸ்டிக்கே இல்லைன்னா they cannot be able to load it.
ஸோ 11th hour கொடுத்த கார்கோ கூட நீங்கள் எடுத்துகிட்டு போய் டெலிவரி பண்ணி சக்ஸஸ் பண்ணி கொடுத்துருக்கீங்க.
அவங்களுடைய மொத்த உழைப்பும் கடைசி எங்ககிட்ட தான் இருக்குதுங்க. நாங்கள் கரெக்டாக ஆன்போர்ட் பண்ணால் தான் அவங்களுக்கு மறுநாள் காலையில் they get the money. ஸோ அந்த லாஜிஸ்டிக் மட்டும் இல்லைன்னா they are in trouble. They cannot go on each and everything for each and every shipment, they cannot be able to move. Logistic people, they will take care. For information, latest policy, self-sealing system, e-sealing. இப்போ இந்த warehouse கூட நான் குறிப்பிட்டு சொல்லும் போது, நம்ம கோயம்புத்தூர், திருப்பூர் மொத்தம் 6 warehouse ஓப்பன் பண்ணாங்க. ஒரு காலகட்டத்தில் 6 warehouse 3 warehouse க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. இந்த ரீசனுக்காக. When the policy change, self-sealing and e-sealing பண்ணும்போது ஃபேக்ட்ரிலேருந்து டைரெக்டாக போட்டு போயிடுது. அப்போ வேர்ஹவுஸ் யூஸ் எல்லாம் போகுது. அந்த வேர்ஹவுஸ் எவ்வளோ கஷ்டப்பட்டு அந்த இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் பண்ண வேர்ஹவுஸ்லாம் யூஸ் எல்லாம் போகிறதுக்காக தான் நான் ஐ எம் ஜஸ்ட் பாயிண்டிங் அவுட், ட்ரை டு பிளான் ஆன் ஃப்ரீ ட்ரேட் வேர்ஹவுசிங் ஜோன். ஒன்ஸ் தே இன்வெர்ட் திஸ் ப்ராடக்ட் இன் டு திஸ் வேர்ஹவுஸ், தே கேன் கெட் த மணி இன் டைம் and they can push the cargo whenever the container availability, whenever the vessel availability. So இந்த பண்ணுமா டைம் கன்சப்ஷன் தான் எல்லாமே. நான் சொன்ன 11th hours cargo டைம் கன்சம்ஷன் தான் மணி மேக்ஸ், அண்ட் டாலர்ஸ் இஸ் எக்ஸ்சேஞ்ச் வில் பி ஆன் day-to-day fluctuation. This makes a benefit for them if we set this kind of hub here.
Thank you sir. I know that you played such an important role in their growth story, and I'm glad that you are here to share that experience. Before we go to the audience for your questions, please have your questions ready and raise your hand so that we can share, pass on the mic and you can ask a question. Before that, I just want to close up with one question to Mr. Sukumar. See, we talked about warehouses for engineering and all these sectors, but what about very specialized sectors like food? One of the biggest areas where supply chain is very weak is in the food sector in India. Wastage of fruits and vegetables is supposed to be something like 40% doesn't go onto the table. So when that is the case, what is the prospect? Because this is another aspect which we are talking about, cold chain and with respect to both trucking and storage. So what is that story, and where does it take us from here?
That is a very, very important question, and you're right. Most people haven't got the answers still on how to solve that thing, in terms of how to solve that problem. In terms of yes, you're absolutely right. The wastage in the agri sector, especially in fruits and vegetables, is very high when you're doing a farm to market. There is a lot of capital investment which needs to go in, because there's a lot of cold chain facilities. There's a reefer trucking that is available. So it is not something which is for the, you need a very deep, you need an appetite to invest, and you have a very strong staying power in that. There is new packaging also which is coming in terms of reusable packaging, to make sure that you pack the fruits and vegetables in a fashion that is tamper proof, which is, it keeps the freshness alive and helps to transport. Nowadays, there are organizations which create packaging, some of us like ours, which you can actually use it to transport apples, let's say from Shimla to a Bombay or further south. And similarly, there is in the Coimbatore area, you have these things that you can take back in terms of these packaging. But to cut a long story short, it is not, it's not something which has been very completely solved yet. The work is still in progress in that sector.
And there's a lot of potential for investment and growth in that sector.
There is, yes. But it requires a reasonable amount of staying power to be in that sector, yes.
And are there any big players currently specialized in such reefer trucks and such warehousing in India?
Yes, there are, but again, there are just 2 or 3 of them who are the bigger ones. You would have come across names like Gateway District Parks and Snowman Logistics, and those are the kind of people who actually have specialized in the area of cold chain, cold X, people like that. But they are few and far between. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now from the audience, we'd like to see if you have any questions. Can you just pass on the mic there, please? Just introduce yourself so that we'll know on what context you are asking the question.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Guru Prasad. I am a consultant in supply chain and logistics. My question is to TVS, of course. Where do you think this multimodal logistics will be cost effective, especially from Coimbatore, where we are machining or a manufacturing cluster of machinery and auto parts. And the supply from here basically goes to the north side. Okay? During my research, past 3 years, 4 years, when we want to transport this by rail, vessel and then road to the northern part, we were not effective. When do you think that we would be effective when doing this sort of real multimodal logistics? Thank you.
Okay, at least this is a continuously evolving industry, so it's not as if we have the answers ready. But there are new concepts, two things I would say. One is in terms of tractor trailer has come, in terms of where you can actually move products from feeder locations into a consolidation center and then move it forward. Then there are companies who are now, there are a couple of them who have come into the area of road railers. So when you have a road railer, the road railer actually can, load a container which just goes straight onto a wagon and which is then taken forward. And then at the last mile it again comes off and you can drive it back to where you want to. Having said that, it requires a lot of consolidation because these are much large, high capacity infrastructure. And you need established players who can actually try and get consolidation together to make this work. It is evolving, but there are solutions now available where you will get into a feeder network from a small town into a hub location, like say a Coimbatore, from a manufacturing location, and then you consolidate such that you get a round trip, which then you're able to save cost. Otherwise, the traditional logistics is you pick up material at the plant and deliver to destination, which is a very, very expensive proposition.
Can you use the mic, please?
From the tier 2 cities, this is yet to evolve. In tier 1 cities, maybe it has evolved. So tier 2 cities, it is yet to evolve, according to you.
Yes, you're correct, and the tier 2 cities are acting as feeders for the tier 1 cities, so it's not as if the tier 2 cities are not playing their part. Like Mr. Satish mentioned about the entire, it's currently, the execution of the multimodal logistics parks has started, so it's a journey, it'll take some time.
Journey, right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're still in nascent stage. Anybody else? Okay, since nobody else has started, I'll go back to the original story which got me interested in warehousing and logistics with Mr. Mahesh Babu. What is the ideal kind of, suppose somebody wants to set up a warehouse, based on your own experience, both of you can answer this question, just to set up a warehouse to give to people either on a sharing basis or on a wholly usable basis. What will be the ideal size of setting up a warehouse? And in the context of Coimbatore and your experience, I am very specific, not general. So what is the most viable thing and what do you think will be the most saleable? Because I think there may be a lot of interest in setting up warehouses. A lot of people in Coimbatore are willing to invest. What role they further play in the value addition, we don't know, but at least they're willing to set up the infrastructure. What will be the sizes which are required? Yeah, Sukuma can start and the others can add value, because this is something which can reach across the sectors.
Let me just clarify your question. In terms of the land bank, you're talking of the size of the warehouse?
Size of the warehouse, size of the warehouse.
See, you can do warehouses from 5,000 square feet onwards to, you can do to 3.5 lakh, 4 lakh square feet as well. I would say that if you want the maximum possibility of getting clientele in a shared kind of facility, anything upwards of 50,000 square feet I think would be a workable problem, with 50,000. The thing with the moment you get 15,000 and then you find a customer who wants 18,000, then it becomes a problem. So those little wastages end up much more. The larger the facility, obviously you can minimize the amount of wastage that you have in terms of unutilized space. So I would say about there is when the interest really peaks. Then you will come to a service provider like us who will say, okay, you know what, I've got customer A, B and C. Can I put all three together? Can I consolidate instead of having 3 locations of 5,000 square feet each? That's what it will get.
Yeah, Satish, would you like to add?
I think I totally go with what Mr. Sugmar had said. It's the location and the size. And as you rightly know today, scaling up is the only way forward. So the bigger the better, because once the size is big, you can have partitions and you can give it away to many, and the marketing becomes easier, and there's somebody who's taking responsibility for it instead of having it in a small package. As we scale up, the cost definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yes, sir.
We
Yes,
should
yes,
not
sir.
plan only for the warehouse space. We should plan for the transportations, parking and container yard parking also. It should be an open yard. So my suggestion should be 100 acres of land at one time stroke. Make it public limited, join Codicea and Chamber and call other exporters and expand at one time stroke. Because actually I'm very because only in this Coimbatore market belt, you have 10 product of different products. There's any other market, they do only 2 or 3 products. But in Coimbatore belt, from Nilagiri to Karur made-ups, Tirupur t-shirts, Coimbatore pump, motors and other items, and Pollachi coil. If everybody comes, we need a space to trailer to park and container yard to be there. I am just planning to be a good port in Coimbatore, not warehouse. Because one-time investment by public limited company should be a multi-transport system.
So, Mr. Shanmugam, you are suggesting that we have a collaborative nature and set up a huge transport
TVS Jambhavan sitting with us. Let us come and join with Concard, make a joint venture and expand it. Because it's already having 50 acres with Concard. Let them invest 50 acres and the expansion with a different way. We have to think in different way only. My suggestion. Because my observation, the exporters, when they make a 6 month of production, the 11th hours, what I say, the 11th hours is in logistics sectors only. When we do good, your money is back. When I do bad, your money is out.
And what I say here is land is the king. The size and land size is the king. And who better to answer that question than Mr. Ilango, who had been breaking his head for over 10 years to set up the CIPL in 2 different pockets. And he knows the challenges. I think land is the biggest key in the whole exercise.
Sir, my suggestion, if you have a land, lot of MNC companies, their raw materials, they can come and dump it here. For example, DG. For casting industries, you need a bonding chemicals. That it is a regular consumption of the casting industries. If we invite them to come and open a hub here, we can give a space for them. So, it is very useful for your manufacture of casting industries. Second thing, cotton. Every time when they have to run back to Gujarat or they have to import from USA, call the MNC company, keep a space for them, let them pay the rent for that. Because there is no any demurrage in the free trade warehousing zone. No demurrage, only warehousing charges only. Let them, we can call them, we can make money on that. Because Coimbatore unlimited treasure is there. Simple. If you think in a different way, with a large area, we can go into big way.
Unlimited treasure, that's a good word. Thank you very much for that insight, Ms. Shanmugam. Yeah, we have a question from one of the gentlemen there. Can you pass on the mic there, please?
In Coimbatore. So when the central government has given the EEO certification to the importers and exporters, and they have given the facilities of moving the consignment within the 2 days period from the port itself, direct delivery, and apart from that seal verification, self-sealing and all from the factory itself at the time of export. So there is no necessity of having the warehouse in Coimbatore. You can have the facilities of stuffing the consignment at your own. And there is one already, Chettinad, they are having warehouse in Coimbatore, and ICD also having customs notified area. Suppose if they have LCL consignments, they have the option to move the consignments to these 2 areas. And if any urgency and emergency, they can move it to Tuticorin and Cochin, as well as Chennai also. So such that case, what is the issue? What is the necessity of establishing this kind of warehouse?
Sir,
and that's what Mr. Shanmugam has very clearly explained, that if we have a free trade zone here, that will be helpful to everyone.
அதாவது நம்ம கடலோரத்தில் இருக்கிற போர்ட்டை கோயம்புத்தூர் கொண்டு வந்துட்டோம். சில பேர் சொல்லுவாங்க கடலை எப்படி கொண்டு வரணும், கடலை கொண்டு வந்துடலாம். ஏன்னு கேட்டால் அந்த பாலிசியில் தெளிவாக சொல்கிறாங்க, when you cross the product inside this free trade zone, you can take the money from the bank-ன்ட்டான். சிம்பிளாக சொல்லிட்டாங்க. அதே மாதிரி 5 years, when you import the raw materials, you can hold the raw materials for 5 years. The consumer of manufacturer, they can take whatever the quantity they want. For example, 25 டன் வந்து இறங்குது வச்சுங்க கெமிக்கல்ஸ், அதில் வந்து 2 டன்னுக்கு மட்டும் டியூட்டி கட்டி ஒரு இம்போர்ட் எடுத்து போய் மேனுஃபேக்சர் பண்ணலாம். அதே மாதிரி ரேஷனைஸ் பண்ணிடலாம். அப்போ இம்போர்ட்டருக்கு பிரச்சனை இல்லை. சில பிராண்டட் ஐட்டம், ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் As I say earlier, inner wear, எல்லாம் ஒரே ஸ்டைல் தான். Out, only thing, some fashionable only, it is different. Inner wear and pumps. சுகுணா மோட்டர்னா அவன் பாட்டு மேனுஃபேக்சர் பண்ணி தான் இருப்பாங்க. அதை வந்து when they manufacture it, they can tap into the free trade warehousing zone and they can take the money immediately and can make the rotation. The money won't be stopped. At the same time, when the buyer needs ஒரு 50,000 pump போனோம்னா same day it will be lifted by this MTO, this logistic department. அதுக்கு அந்த லாஜிஸ்டிக் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்ல எல்லாம் சேர்ந்து ஒவ்வொரு சிஹெச்யும் அந்தந்த கஸ்டமருக்கு ஒர்க் பண்ணி இருப்பாங்க. பட் இந்த ஃப்ரீ ட்ரேட் வேர்ஹவுசிங் ஜோன் வந்து இட் இஸ் ஜஸ்ட் லைக் எ போர்ட். அதில் ஒரு அட்வான்டேஜ் என்னன்னா ரொம்ப பிடிச்சதுன்னா வந்த கன்சைன்மெண்ட்டுக்கு இம்போர்ட் டியூட்டி இம்மீடியட்டாக கட்ட வேண்டிய அவசியம் கிடையாது. என்ன பர்டிகுலர், ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் நான் திருப்பி சொல்ல வரேன், ஒரு 25 டன்னு கெமிக்கல் உள்ள வருதுன்னா ஒரு மேனுஃபேக்சருக்கு அவருக்கு 2 டன்னு தான் வேணும்னா அந்த 2 டன்னுக்கு மட்டும் பில் ஆஃப் ஃபைல் பண்ணிட்டு he can take the raw material and manufacture பண்ணிட்டு he can send the shipment. அதே நேரத்தில் ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் அந்த 2 டன்னு பண்ணோம்னா you have to approach the supplier foreigner and he will for the dangerous goods full container load தான் அனுப்பணும். அப்போ அனுப்புன்னு சொல்லும்போது 25 டன் அவன் வாங்கி வச்சுட்டு பணத்தை விரயம் பண்ணுறான். இந்த மாதிரி விஷயத்தில் அது ஹெல்ப்ஃபுல்லாக இருக்கும். அதே நேரத்தில் கார்மெண்ட்ஸ் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ் ஒரே ஸ்டைலாக மேனுஃபேக்சர் பண்ணுறவங்க டம்ப் பண்ணி வேணுன்ற அளவுக்கு கொள்முதல் பண்ணிக்கலாம். இது ட்ரேடிங் நடக்கும், கன்சியூமும் நடக்கும். இது கொஞ்சம் நல்லா யோசனை பண்ணிட்டு ஐ வாண்ட் த கொடிசியா டு டேக் திஸ் மேட்டர் வெரி சீரியஸ்லி. ஒன் டைம் பண்ணா கூட இந்த வருஷத்தை பிஃபோர் கிரைஸ்ட் ஆஃப்டர் கிரைஸ்ட் மாதிரி வரணும்.
Yeah, fantastic sir, you explained it very correctly. To explain, definitely நீங்க ஃபேக்டரியில இருந்து ஸ்டஃப் பண்ணி டைரக்டா போட்டு கொண்டு போறதா most efficient way, and all of us as exporters have been doing it for many years, and that's the right way. There is nothing wrong. But wherever storage and movement is required, then warehousing becomes the most important aspect, like what Shanmugam sir was telling. Whether it's imports or exports, where you need to store and then after a period of time send it, the advantage is to store it in a warehouse where it is kept safely, handled well, and made sure it is shipped at the right time. So அந்த மாதிரி situation useful இருக்கும். And as a free trade warehouse, the advantage is that it is treated. நிறைய பேர் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா multinationals want to do it like that. ஏன் இங்கிருந்தே நாங்கள் எக்ஸ்போர்ட் பண்ணுவோம். இப்போல்லாம் பார்த்தா முந்தி வந்து சிஐஎஃப்ஓ இல்லை எஃப்ஓபி தான் கேட்டிருந்தாங்க, இப்போ டிடிபி தான் கேட்குறாங்க. யூஎஸ்க்கெல்லாம் பண்ணணும் டிடிபி வேணுங்கிறாங்க. அங்கே வேர் ஹவுஸ்ல இருந்துட்டு ஜஸ்ட் இன் டைம் டெலிவரி டு ஆட்டோமோட்டிவ் மேனுஃபேக்சரர்ஸ் வேணுங்கிறாங்க. எப்படி பண்ணுவோம் வித்தவுட் வேர் ஹவுசிங்? ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி சுச்சுவேஷனில் எக்ஸாக்ட்லி ஃப்ரீ ட்ரேட் வேர் ஹவுசிங் ஜோன் வில் பி த மோஸ்ட் யூஸ்ஃபுல் திங், வேர் யூ கேன் டூ ஜஸ்ட் இன் டைம் சப்ளைஸ் டு மேனுஃபேக்சரர்ஸ் பை கீப்பிங் இட், ஸ்டோரிங் இட், clearing it as and when required and delivering it. இல்லன்னா நீங்க டியூட்டி கட்டி எடுத்துட்டு வந்து வெச்சிருக்கணும். So those areas, that is a fantastic aspect. Just in time manufacturing ரொம்ப useful. With Coimbatore developing as a bigger manufacturing center, with the PLI scheme encouraging people to set up factories. இப்போ பார்த்தீங்கன்னா PLI productivity linked insurance, I mean incentive schemes, which is 7 to 12% வரை சென்ட்ரல் கவர்மெண்ட் கொடுக்க போறாங்க. நிறைய பேர் சைன் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. நான் கம்பெனி வேற ஐம் director is also signing up. So most of the large companies are setting up new facilities to under the PLI scheme. ஸோ கோயம்புத்தூர்லேயும் நிறைய இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் இருக்குது அந்த மாதிரி செட்டப் பண்ணும்போது. when such industries come, such hubs will become a very useful tool. You need warehousing for that, you need free trade warehousing. So DDP எடுத்து கொடுக்கணும்னா உங்களுக்கு தெரியாது ஒன்றும் இல்லை, எஸ்பெஷலி CHS, you know the entire subject. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி இடத்துல இது ரொம்ப யூஸ்ஃபுல்லாக இருக்கும். ஸோ அதுக்கு யூஸ்ஃபுல்லாக இருக்கும். Other warehousing facilities are required for domestic services, which is what Mr. Sukumar was talking about, and so warehousing becomes very important in that context. But definitely நீங்க சொல்ற மாதிரி shipment directா பண்ண முடிஞ்சனா அதுதான் most efficient thing, and all of us as exporters will continue to do that. அப்போ warehousing வேண்டியதில்லை.
சாரோட கேள்வி வந்து LCL கன்சைன்மெண்ட் போட்டு கொண்டு போனா மண்டே, ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் ஒரு எக்ஸ்போர்ட்டர் வந்து ஒரு எல்சிஎல் கன்சைன்மெண்ட் மண்டே கொண்டு போய் இறக்கி கிளியர் பண்ணுறாரு. வீக்கெண்டு தான் பாக்ஸ் க்ளோஸ் பண்ணும்போது பில் ஆஃப் லேடிங் ரிலீஸ் பண்ணுறாங்க. ஸோ அந்த 6 நாள் யூ ஹேவ் டு வெயிட் தேர் ஃபார் த பில் ஆஃப் லேடிங். 6 days மணி ஃபண்ட்ஸ் ஆர் பிளாக்டு. பட் இந்த மாதிரி ஐசிடியில் இந்த மாதிரி ஃப்ரீ ட்ரேட் பாலிசியில் கன்சைன்மெண்ட் உள்ள நுழைஞ்சவொடனே மறுநாள் பேங்க்கில் யூ கேன் மேக் த மணி. டோன்ட் வாண்ட் வெயிட் ஃபார் த அன்டில் கன்சல்டேஷன் டேக் பிளேஸ் அண்ட் ஆன்போர்ட் டேக் பிளேஸ். இது வந்து இந்த ஃபெசிலிட்டி வந்து இந்த ஃப்ரீ ட்ரேட் பாலிசியில் இருக்குங்க. ஒரு 2 CP உள்ள அமைச்சோன்னா மறுநாள் காலில் அவர் யூ கேன் கெட் கார்கோ ரிசிப்ட் அண்ட் டேக் தட். பிகாஸ் இந்த பாலிசியில் இட்ஸ் வெரி கிளியர்டு. ஒன்ஸ் இன்வெர்ட் இஸ் டீம் எக்ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் சொல்லிட்டு டிக்ளேர் பண்ணுறாங்க. ஸோ அந்த ஃபெசிலிட்டி வந்து HCL கன்சைன்மெண்ட்டுக்கு பூஸ்ட் ஆகும். வீக்லி 140 feet கண்டெய்னர் ஓப்பன் பண்ணி இந்த மல்டி மாடல் டிரான்ஸ்போர்ட்டில் ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ணிடலாம். இந்த வீக் யூரோப்புக்கு ஒரு கண்டெய்னர் லோடிங் கொடுக்க யூ கேன் டேக் த மணி அவுட். ஸோ இந்த ஃபெசிலிட்டி, ஏன்னா மானிட்டரி த மோஸ்ட் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் இன் எனி பிஸ்னஸ். பணம் ரொட்டேஷன் இருந்தால் தான் எக்ஸ்போர்ட்டர் நிம்மதியாக இருப்பாங்க. பணம் போய் ஒரு வாரம் பிளாக் பண்ணால் கூட யூ வில் பி புட் இன் ட்ரபிள். ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி ஃபெசிலிட்டி பண்ணிட்டோமா நம்மளுக்கு ரொம்ப தெளிவாக இருக்கும். ஏன்னு கேட்டால் வேர்ஹவுஸ்ன்னு சொல்லிட்டு நம்ம நிறைய திறந்து வச்சுக்கிறதுல பிரயோஜனம் கிடையாது. எங்கேயோ இருக்கிறவன் சாரி மன்னிச்சிடும். அமேசான் வந்து செட்டிபாளையத்தில் 2 லட்சம் ஸ்கொயர் ஃபீட்டில் வேர்ஹவுஸ் கட்டியிருக்கான். ஆச்சரியமாக இருக்குது. நம்ம ஊரில் நம்மளால் கட்ட முடியலன்னு தான் எனக்கு வருத்தம். அந்த செட்டிபாளையம் ரோடு பல்லர் ரோடு போகும்போது அமேசிங்காக பண்ணியிருக்கான். இப்படி திரும்பி பார்த்தா ஆல்ஸ்டாம் தட் மெட்ரோ ட்ரெயின் மேனுஃபேக்சரும் ஃபேக்ட்ரி கிட்டத்தட்ட 3 லட்சம் ஸ்கொயர் ஃபீட்டுக்கு 4 லட்சம் ஸ்கொயர் ஃபீட்டுக்கு வேர் ஹவுஸ் கட்டுறாங்க. நம்மளே முடியல. நம்மளுக்கு எல்லா ஸ்கில்டு என்டர்பிரைசஸ் வேறு மாதிரி இருக்கிறாங்க. ஸ்கில்டு என்டர்பிரைசஸ் சேம்பர் இருக்குது, எல்லா காலேஜஸ் இருக்குது. எஜுகேஷனில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா கோயம்புத்தூர் சென்னையில் போய் பார்த்தோம்னா என் பையனை கோயம்புத்தூர் தான் அனுப்புகிறேன் படிக்கிறதுக்குன்னு. அவள் படிக்கிறதுக்கு கோயம்புத்தூருக்கு அனுப்புனா தட் இன்ஸ்டிடியூஷன் இஸ் ஆல்சோ ப்ளஸ் பாயிண்ட் ஃபார் கோயம்புத்தூர். ஸ்கில்டு என்டர்பிரைனர்ஸ், ஸ்கில்டு லேபர்ஸ் எல்லாம் கிரியேட் பண்ணுறது கோயம்புத்தூர் இருக்கும்போது இந்த இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சரை வச்சு நம்ம ஏன் இந்த ஃப்ரீ ட்ரேட் வேர்ஹவுசிங் ஜோன் இங்கே கொண்டு வரக்கூடாதுன்னு ஒரு ஆசை. ஓகே ப்ளீஸ். Sorry.
Thank you. No, I think that's a very good insight into free trade warehousing zone and other advantages. Any more questions from the audience? Yeah. Mr. Ramesh, you would like to add something? Yeah.
Sir, வணக்கம். நான் நோயல் ட்ரக் டாக்ஸிலேருந்து வரேன். இது பண்ணுறேங்க. நாங்கள் லாஸ்ட் மைல் சர்வீஸில் இருக்கோம்.
ஒரு நிமிஷம் அங்கே சொல்லுங்கள்.
நோயல் ட்ரக் டாக்ஸிலேருந்து வரேங்க. லாஸ்ட் மைல் சர்வீஸில் இருக்கோம். 2 கொஸ்டின். ஒன்று மிஸ்டர் சிவகுமார் சாரோடதுக்கு வந்து லாஸ்ட் மைல் சர்வீஸோட இப்போது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா டொமஸ்டிக் மார்க்கெட்டோட எப்படி இருக்கும் அப்படிங்கிறது இருக்குது. ஃபியூச்சர் எப்படி இருக்கும் அப்படிங்கிறது, க்ரோத் ரேட் நமக்கு தெரியுங்கிறது மாதிரி தெரியுங்க. 2வது சார் ரமேஷ் சார் நல்லா அட்ரஸ் பண்ணார், கரெக்டாக அட்ரஸ் பண்ணார். ஸ்கில் டெவலப்மெண்ட். ஸோ நாங்கள் ஃபேஸ் பண்ணுற ப்ராப்ளமே ஒரு டிரைவர் எடுத்தாங்கன்னா அவங்களுக்கான ஸ்கில் டெவலப்மெண்ட்ஸ் அவங்கள நர்ச்சரிங் பண்ணி அவங்கள ட்ரெயின் பண்ணி கொடுக்குற விஷயங்கிறது வந்து சேலஞ்சிங்காக இருக்குது. ஸோ லாஸ்ட் மைல் டெலிவரி ஆகட்டும், ஒரு பொருள் வந்து குட்ஸ் நல்ல முறையாக போய் சேரப்போ அவங்களுக்கான லேபர்ஸ் இல்லாமல் நம்ம இன்றைக்கி எதுவும் பண்ண முடியாது. ஸோ இதை கரெக்டாக ட்ரெயின் பண்ணுறதுக்கான சென்டர்ஸ் கரெக்டாக இல்லைன்னு ஃபீல் பண்ணுறோம். ஸோ நாங்கள் ட்ரெயின் பண்ணுறோம், அது அவ்வளோ பெட்டராக இருக்குமா அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி ஒரு விஷயம் நம்மளே டெய்லியும் பார்த்து நம்ம முஜிபே பார்த்து ட்ரெயின் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கப்போ நல்லா இருக்குங்கிற மாதிரி ஃபீல் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். ஸோ இந்த 2 விஷயத்துக்குங்கிறதுக்கு வந்து எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணலாம். தேங்க்யூ.
Yeah.
லாஸ்ட் மைல். ஸோ லாஸ்ட் மைலில் இந்த லாஸ்ட் மைல் சர்வீஸ் என்ன ஃபியூச்சர் அதான் கேட்டீங்க நீங்கள். ஆமாம். ஸோ லாஸ்ட் மைல் சர்வீஸ் இப்போ ரீசெண்டாக இந்த எஸ்பெஷலி இந்த போஸ்ட் பேண்டமிக் பீரியடில் இந்த D2C டைரக்ட் டு கன்சியூமர் நிறையா வந்திருக்கு. அது ஒன்று. 2வது நீங்கள் பார்த்துருப்பீங்க, பேப்பர்லையும் படிப்பீங்க, இந்த ஹைப்பர் லோக்கல் இஸ் பிகமிங் வெரி கிரிட்டிக்கல். சேம் டே சர்வீஸ் முன்னாலாம் யூ கேன் டூ நெக்ஸ்ட் டே, 2 days, 3 days சர்வீஸ். இப்போ சேம் டே சர்வீஸ் இஸ் பிகம் வெரி வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட், எஸ்பெஷலி கிரிட்டிக்கல் இன்வென்ட்ரி லாஜிஸ்டிக்ஸில். So last mile service in that sense on a consolidated basis to keep it low cost is a very very big opportunity, especially if you are a local service provider. You know, a lot of companies, pan-India companies in the either manage பண்றதுக்கு they would want reliable partners at the local level who can provide these services. That is very very key if you are asking. ரெண்டாவது the skill level for these people, அவளுக்கு they need to be technology reliable. You know, they are using a lot of apps and all these days. முன்னெல்லாம் ஒரு பேக்கெட் கொடுத்து பேப்பரில் சைன் பண்ணி டெலிவரி பண்ண முடியாது, அதெல்லாம் பண்ண முடியாது இப்போ. ஏன்னா நிறைய சர்வீசஸ் இருக்குது, கேஷ் ஆன் டெலிவரி, செக் ஆன். இப்போ செக் ஆஃப் கோர்ஸ் இஸ் நாட் தேர் ஸோ மச், பட் கூகுள் பே ஆர் பேமெண்ட் மெக்கானிசம்ஸ் அண்ட் டெலிவரி. ஸோ ஸ்கில் லெவல்ஸ் கொஞ்சம் இம்ப்ரூவ் நிறையாவே இருக்குது அவளுக்கு. ஸோ அந்த 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 கேப்பபிலிட்டிஸ் ப்ளஸ் வெயிட் பண்ணி ஒரு பார்ட்டை ரிட்டர்ன் ட்ரையல் பண்ணி அதை திருப்பி எட்டுன்னு வரத்துக்கு, ஏன்னா சில பேர் ட்ரை பண்ணி திருப்பி as an எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் கொடுக்குறாங்க. ஸோ ஆல் ஆஃப் தீஸ் has a lot of bearing on the skill level. So to me, it is a very, very high growth area as far as last mile, everybody knows how e-commerce is growing, right? So it's a very straightforward thing, yeah.
Thank you for that insight on last mile. Yeah, before we go to Mr. Ramesh, there's only one other aspect which I want to really highlight to this audience. In fact, Preeta was also talking about it before this meeting, is Coimbatore is also becoming a central hub for manufacturing equipment for warehousing and logistics. There are people who are manufacturing storage, vertical storage systems, racks. There are people who are started manufacturing AI-based robots for warehouse operations. There's a lot of investment. Of course, all of you are aware that Coimbatore multi-level car parking is manufacturers are there in Coimbatore, a couple of manufacturers are there. They've set up numerous facilities around. So what we see is that Coimbatore is also, there's apart from the potential on just the warehousing, even supplying to warehouses is a huge potential. And that is a growth story and opportunity area which all of us should not miss out on. Anybody into manufacturing, anybody into related products can always look at those aspects of manufacturing which can supply to cater to the warehousing and the logistics industries across the country and even globally. So I think that is something you have to keep in perspective and do it. Yeah, before that, Mr. Ramesh wants to say something. Yeah, go ahead.
So you were talking about agri. So for post-harvest agri-logistics, I think it's Coimbatore region is one of the best hubs for Tamil Nadu. And there's a lot that is happening from the government front, especially for setting up the infrastructure on multimodal. For example, rail, Krishi Rail has started. So they've taken a few trial runs from Theni, Kambam for bananas, and noticed that there were humongous wastage only because of lack of ventilation while transportation. So, for Udan, for air, I happened to talk to the logistics secretary. He's a guiding force in Delhi. They have opened up select, hilly regions like Ooty, Mettupalayam, Kodaikanal, Aircard, where the reverse empty flights coming into the nearest airport of the hill station can carry at a highly subsidized cost the agri-produce. So it is just on a trial mode. I think once that comes in, I think with MS Swaminathan, which is one of the best in the country, the infrastructure, the people, the technology, I think we can set an example from this hub to the rest of the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for adding. Good.
One more last point is, I forgot to mention, the Tamil Nadu government has given us a 4-storied state-of-art, completely air-conditioned skill center in Oragadam, Chennai, only for skilling in logistics. So this is now being replicated by other ministries like railways. The railways has opened up 294 training centers across the country to logistics sector to skill train and place people in multimodal logistics. Similarly, we had also got the data, RTO-wise, state-wise, heavy drivers data, which runs into about 33 crores line items, to reach out to the drivers and upskill them with technology, because for them, digitized is WhatsApp. And how do we upskill them with, contactless payments, FASTags, G-Pays in petrol pumps, for parking, for eating. So these are the new gen skills that we are into, because this we strongly feel enhances the operational efficiency through technology, and that's a separate segment that we are into. Similarly, the Tamil Nadu government is ready to give a skill center in Coimbatore. So to skill train people in logistics. I think one last pointer that I have is, I think it is time for us to build networks both locally, nationally and internationally to make this happen, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Mr. Ramesh for those insights. They're tremendously useful. You need the manpower, you need the skills for the growth of the sector. Before we wind up, I'd just like each of the panelists to give a closing remark on what you see is the best thing which can happen, and what is it that you look forward to in Coimbatore becoming a logistics and warehousing hub. Start with Ms. Sue. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody, for having us over here. And as Ilango said, and as all of you have shared, we have no doubt that, we are going to grow exponentially in the next 7 or 8 years. And Coimbatore is the place to be because you have a lot of opportunities in and around the city. It's not only for the locals, it's also for the people who wish to invest in Coimbatore. This is the best place to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Satish.
கோயம்புத்தூர் ஒன்று தான் கல்விக்கு முதலிடம் கொடுக்குற இடமா இருக்கு. இப்போ அப்படி இருக்கச்ச ஸ்கில்டு நிறைய கிடைக்குது இந்த ஊரில். ஸ்கில்டு கிடைச்சாவே நாலேஜ் ஜாஸ்தி வளரும். அது பேஸ் பண்ணி வளர்ச்சிகள் நல்லா இருக்கும் என்னுடைய கணிப்பு. அதில் கோயம்புத்தூர் வந்து இஸ் a best place and the location is also best place. It can easily, even Kerala people can easily enter into the gateway port because it's a bottleneck for Kerala. They can easily come and extract their job and they can move back. கோயம்புத்தூர் பெல்ட்டில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா என்னை பொறுத்தவரை இது தங்க சுரங்கம். இதுக்கு அழகாக எப்படி வெட்டணும் தான் பார்க்கணும். நம்ம வெட்டி அது சுரங்கத்தை அழகாக எப்படி எக்ஸ்பென்ஷன் பண்ணணும் தான் பார்க்கணும். மல்டி லெவல் ஆஃப் ஆக்டிவிட்டீஸ் நம்ம பண்ணணும். அது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நான் முழுமையாக யோசனை பண்ணேன். கிட்டத்தட்ட 10 செக்டார்ஸ் இதால் பயன்படும். ஃபஸ்ட்டு காஸ்டிங் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ், ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ், மோட்டார் மெஷின் டூல் இண்டஸ்ட்ரி செக்டர், பம்ப் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ். பம்பு வேற, மோட்டார் வேற, மிஷின் வேற, கார்மெண்ட்ஸ் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ், அக்ரிகல்ச்சர் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ் ஃபார் அக்ரோ ப்ராடக்ட். இன்னைக்கு மில்க்குன்னு எடுத்துட்டீங்கன்னா கூட ஜாஸ்தி மேனுஃபேக்சர் பண்ணுறது கோயம்புத்தூர் தான். காயர் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ், த க்ரோத் இஸ் அப்நார்மல். ஒரு எக்ஸ்போர்ட்டர் அட் டைமில் எனக்கு 60 கண்டெய்னர் கொடுக்குறியா, 70 கண்டெய்னர் கொடுக்குறியா, எனக்கே ஒன்றும் புரியல. கண்டெய்னரே கிடைக்காதுனால 60-70 கேட்குறாங்கன்னு. காயர் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ் க்ரோத் நல்லா இருக்கு. இதை பேஸ் பண்ணி எம்என்சி கம்பெனி சப்ளையர் ஆஃப் ரா மெட்டீரியல் தே கேன் கம் அண்ட் லான்ச் தேர் ஸ்டோர் ஹியர் டு டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூட் த ரா மெட்டீரியல்ஸ் த்ரூ திஸ் குட் வேர் ஹவுஸ் இன் கோயம்புத்தூர். அப்புறம் C&F மூமெண்ட், வேர்ஹவுசிங் செக்டர்ஸ், C&F கிளியரிங் அண்ட் ஃபார்வர்டிங். எங்கெங்கே ப்ராடக்ட்டு நொய்டாவில் மேனுஃபேக்சர் பண்ணுற ப்ராடக்ட்டு இங்கே வந்து கொண்டு வந்து டம்ப் பண்ணலாம். 5 years they can keep and the stocks. Trucking sector, the biggest transport sector, growth அருமையாக இருக்கும். அதே நேரத்தில் growth அருமையாக இருக்கணும்னா ஃபீடர் ரோடு கொஞ்சம் அக்விசேஷன்லாம் எடுத்துடணும். அது கவர்மெண்ட், ஸ்டேட் கவர்மெண்ட் வந்து கொஞ்சம் தலையிடணும். அதாவது அக்விசேஷன் மட்டும் தான் எடுக்க சொல்கிறேன், ப்ராட் ஒர்க் பண்ணுவாங்க. அக்விசேஷன் மட்டும் எடுத்தால் போதும், நல்லா இருக்கும். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் டூரிங் த பிரிட்டிஷ் பீப்புள் அவங்க தெளிவாக தான் நம்மளுக்கெல்லாம் விட்டுட்டு போனாங்க. சென்ட்ரல் ரயில்வே ஸ்டேஷன் லான்ச் பண்ணும்போது இம்மீடியட்டாக ஃபஸ்ட்டு லான்ச்சு போத்தனூர் ரயில்வே ஸ்டேஷன் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. நீங்கள் கூகுளில் போய் பாருங்கள். சென்ட்ரல் ரயில்வே ஸ்டேஷன் அந்த வருஷத்தில் லான்ச் பண்ண அன்னைக்கு போத்தனூர் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. ஏன்னு கேட்டால் எல்லா தடவாளங்களும் போத்தனூர் ரயில்வே ஸ்டேஷன் வந்துட்டு அங்கேருந்து மேட்டுப்பாளையம் எல்லாம் போகிறதுக்காக. ஆனால் போத்தனூர்லேருந்து போகிற வெளியே வந்தோன்னா 3 டீ ரோடு இருக்கும். அந்த 3 டீக்கு 60 அடி ரோடு இருந்துச்சு, இப்போ 20 அடி ரோடு தான் இருக்குது. ஏங்க அப்போ அந்த ரோடு எங்கே போச்சுங்க? அந்த ரோடு நம்ம நாளைக்கு ஒரு 40 feet ட்ரெயிலர் போனான்னா கூட இட் இஸ் ஹைலி இம்பாசிபிள். என்னுடைய 35 வருஷத்தில் கடந்த 2 மாதத்துனால ஒரு பெரிய ப்ராஜெக்ட் இந்த கோயம்புத்தூர் கொண்டு வரணும் ரொம்ப ஆசைப்பட்டாங்க. அதே ஒவ்வொரு விஷயத்தையும் நான் அப்சர்வ் பண்ணுவேன். என்னோட திருப்பூர் எக்ஸ்போர்ட்டர்ஸ்லாம் காட்டன் குஜராத்லேருந்து லாரியில் கொண்டு வந்து வாங்குவாங்க. அவங்க ஒவ்வொருத்தரும் ஒரு மில் ஓனர்ஸ்லாம் வந்து எனக்கு 100 கண்டெய்னர் 50 கண்டெய்னர் வாங்குவாங்க. இவங்க ஒவ்வொரு வாட்டியும் டிரான்ஸ்போர்ட் மூலிமா வரும்போது ஏன் ட்ரெயின் மூலிமா வந்தால் நல்லா இருக்குமேன்னு சொல்லிட்டு என் நல்ல ஒரு ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி கிடச்சிதுங்க. அதானி தி கால் சண்முகம் எங்களுக்கு கைட் பண்ணுங்க, நாங்கள் கோயம்புத்தூருக்கு வரோம், நீங்கள் எங்களை கொண்டு போய் கரெக்டான ரயில்வே ஸ்டேஷனில் எந்த ரயில்வே ஸ்டேஷன் மூலிமா பண்ணலாம். அதாவது முந்திரா போர்ட்டில் லோட் பண்ணால் அந்த 40 feet 22 ரேக்கு வாரத்துக்கு ஒரு அனுப்புகிறோம். ட்ரெயினை கோயம்புத்தூருக்கு அனுப்புகிறோம், காட்டன் ப்ராடக்ட் கொண்டு வந்து இறக்கணும், டம்ப் பண்ணுறோம் அப்படின்னாங்க. சார் நீங்களாம் தயவுசெய்து வாங்க, நீங்கள் ப்ராக்டிக்கலாக பாருங்கள், நல்லா பார்த்து வச்சுருக்கேன்னு சொல்லிட்டு நான் இருகூர் ரயில்வே ஸ்டேஷனுக்கு கூட்டு போனாங்க. ரயில்வே ஆஃபீஸர்ஸ் ஆர் குட் ஆஃபீஸர்ஸ். நல்லா சப்போர்ட் பண்ணாங்க. காட்டுற இடம்லாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா வேக்கண்ட் லேண்ட், எனக்கு வேற ஹவுஸாக வேண்டியதில்லை, இறக்கணும்னா தூக்கிடலாம். ட்ரெயினை விட்டு இறக்கிறதுக்கு ரீஸ்டாக்கர் ரயில்வே யார்டில் இல்லை, அதுக்கு ரீஸ்டாக்கர் 5 லட்சம் கொடுத்து நான் வாடகை எடுக்கணும். சரி, அரேஞ்ச் பண்ணியாச்சு, ஸ்டாக்கப் பண்ணுறோம். ட்ரெயின் வந்தவொடனே எடுத்து எங்கே வைக்கணும்? ட்ரெய்லரில் வைக்கணும். ஒரு 40 ஃபீட் ட்ரெய்லரை 40 ஃபீட் ட்ரெய்லரை எடுத்து நான் வெளியே வரத்துக்கு ரோடு இல்லை. ஃபீல்டு ரோடு எங்கடான்னா இருகூர், நீங்கள் இருகூர் பாருங்க, ஃபீல்டு ரோடு கிடையாது. சரி இருகூர், சரி சார் ஓகேன்னு சொல்லிட்டு கார் எடுத்துகிட்டு இம்மீடியட்டாக ஐ வென்ட் டு பெருந்துறை. பெருந்துறை போனோடனே அதே மாதிரி தான் ரோடு பக்கத்தில் 1 கிலோமீட்டர் என்ன நேஷனல் ஹைவேஸ் இருக்குது. சார் இந்த ரயில்வே ஸ்டேஷன் தத்தெடுத்துங்க சார், உங்கள் ட்ரெயினை கொண்டு வாங்க சார்னு. அது பார்த்தாரு. கட்சியில் ரயில்வே வந்து எங்களுக்கு இம்மிடியட்டாக இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ண முடியாது, நீங்கள் சேலத்துக்கு வாங்க சார், உங்களுக்கு எல்லா ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ் சொல்கிறேன்னு சொல்லிட்டு சதர்ன் ரீஜ், சாரி சார் ஜஸ்ட் டேக்கிங் மை, என்னுடைய ஆதங்கத்தை நான் உங்ககிட்ட சேலம் ரயில்வே ஸ்டேஷனுக்கு போனேன். ஐ வெட் ஆல் த டாப் அஃபிஷியல், சரி கூட்டிட்டு வாங்க சார், நாங்கள் இடம் கொடுக்குறோம்னு சொல்லிட்டு சேலத்தில் ஆர்எஸ் மார்க்கெட்டிங் சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு ஸ்டேஷன் யார்டு இருக்குங்க. அங்கே தான் முதல் கான்ஸ்கார்டு வந்து காலி பண்ணிட்டாங்க கேள்விப்பட்டேன். அவங்க ஏன் காலி பண்ணாங்கன்றது எனக்கு அப்புறம் தான் தெரிஞ்சதுங்க. யார்டு சூப்பர் யார்டு, ரயில்வே சொத்துக்கள் எக்கச்சக்கமாக இருக்குது யார்டு. அந்த இடத்துல அட் அ டைமில் ஒரு ட்ரெயின் வந்துச்சுன்னா 3 மணி நேரத்தில் ரிலீஸ் பண்ணிடலாம். ஆனால் அட் அ டைமில் ரயில்வே ரூல் வந்து 24 மணி நேரத்தில் இறக்கி வச்ச கூட்ஸை வெளியே எடுத்துன்னு போகணும். வெளியே எடுத்துன்னு போகிறதுக்கு ஃபீல்டு ரோடு கனெக்ஷன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா பாட்டில் 40 ஃபீட் ட்ரெய்லர் வெளியே வராது, நான் ஹெலிகாப்டரில் கொண்டு போக முடியாது. அப்புறம் வந்து அதானி அவர்களுக்கு சண்முகம் எல்லா ஃபெசிலிட்டி இருக்குது, உங்களுக்கு ஃபீல்டு ரோடு சரியில்லை, நீங்களாம் அதெல்லாம் கரெக்ட் பண்ணிட்டு சொல்லுங்கள், நாங்கள் ட்ரெயின் விடுறோம். வாரத்துக்கு ஒரு ட்ரெயின் வந்தாவே மில் ஓனர்ஸ்க்கெல்லாம் காஸ்ட் கண்ட்ரோல் வந்திருக்குங்க. லாரியில் கொண்டு போக வேண்டியதில்லை, லோடிங் அன்லோடிங் கிடையாது, கலாசி கிடையாது, எதுவுமே கிடையாது. அழகாக 40 ஃபீட் இறக்கி நேரம் மில்ல கொண்டு கொடுத்துட வேண்டியது தான்.
I think all of us have shared, have gone through this bottlenecks in infrastructure. That is one of the biggest issues which will hamper the logistics sector. நீங்க சொல்ற அந்த அனுபவம் வந்து எங்களுக்கு எல்லாத்துக்குமே புரியுது. I think we are running out of time. அதான் சார் கொடிசியாவோ சாம்பரோ நீங்க we'll look at it, we'll take it up together. There'll be a takeaway from this program. We'll ensure that we put this across to the respective government department. Yeah, Mr. Sukumar, can your last word before we can wind up?
Yeah, just the infrastructure has already been covered off, but I think one place which Coimbatore can really have global edge is in terms of the warehouse automation, especially in the last 12 months, 24 months, it's gone up. Automated storage retrieval systems or conveyor belts, the technologies, I think this place can become a global hub for development of technologies and for manufacturing and exports from here.
So thank you, Mr. Sukumar. I think the biggest takeaway here is that apart from setting up your Coimbatore becoming a big logistics and warehousing hub with multimodal facilities, you still have tremendous potential as a supplier to warehouse and logistics sector. I think that's a huge takeaway here. With such core manufacturing industries in the engineering sector, I think we can identify a lot of scope in that. We as Coimbatore entrepreneurs are always up for challenge, and we look at these as a window of opportunity for all of us. Thank you, Mr. Sukumar, thank you, Mr. Shanmugam and Mr. Satish for your participation and your insights into the area of logistics. We've added much more value into the entire discussion. I also thank Mr. Ramesh for being here and adding his bit on skilling, which is a very, very important aspect. Before I wind up, I should only say that the growth story is there. It is going to continue over the next decade, and it's for all of us in Coimbatore, this region, or from anywhere else in the world. Coimbatore welcomes investments and entrepreneurs from anywhere in the world. So if you're there and if you want to join this growth story, please be here. This is the happening place. And it all starts from the Cochin Bypass Road. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Hindu and G Square. Thank you.
Well, I think our moderator and our panelists have been very clear with their observations and insights, and have shared the opportunities that we all can be a part of and can grow together, of course. And special thanks to Mr. Ramesh, for being a part and sharing your perceptions about the said topic. As said by Mr. Shanmugam, Coimbatore is an unlimited treasure, a city with huge potential, and I'm sure with the right influence from the right influencers, of course, like our moderator and our panelists, Coimbatore is in for a better future. Yes. On that note, I request you all to give a huge round of applause for our panelists and our moderator. Thank you so much. Thank you. And with that, we come to an end of our panel discussion for today. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of our discussion this evening. It definitely means a lot. Thank you very much. And high tea is being served, so kindly join us for that. It's me, Ekta, signing off. Thank you very much.
Thank you.